So now we have strengthening digital trust, innovations in cybersecurity. We live in a digital first world, but with great convenience comes with great responsibility. Cybersecurity is more important than ever. Our next discussion, moderated by Mr. Jaspreet Singh, partner, Grant Thornton, dives into protecting financial institutions from cyber threats. Joining us are cybersecurity leaders, Ms. Aastha Gupta, CEO, Share India Fincap. Ms. Aastha, please may I have you here on the stage and give a huge round of applause for our panelists. Ms. Deepa, Vegesina, Chief Product and Technology Officer, Revfin. Can I have a round of applause for her as well? Come on, everyone. Mr. Vineet Ranjan, Head Risk and Credit, Kosh. A huge round of applause for him as well. Mr. Srinivasan Balraj, VP Security, Muthoot Fincorp. And at last, we have Vivek Madan, CTO and Head of Operations, Hero Housing Finance. Give a huge round of applause for all the speakers today.
Good afternoon, everybody. I see a lot of people are still having lunch. Thank you. I think it's a very, very pertinent topic today. Pick up any newspaper, pick up any media article. Cybersecurity is the talk, right? If you don't see any company's name in the newspaper falling to either a deep fake attack or a phishing scam, where somebody's been compromised, then we're not living in the right country. Right. With that background, given whatever our global political, social environment is happening, plus India is passing its own data privacy law, etc., third-party vendors, KYC processes, I'm sure you guys play in it daily, right? With that, I think it's very pertinent that in the next 30 odd minutes that we have, we will try and cover as many diverse topics from a cybersecurity perspective, from an NBFC perspective as possible. So let's start with your opening comments. Vivek.
Yeah, thank you, Jaspreet, and thank you everyone for having me, and would be happy to really share my thoughts in this elite community. I guess there are two things in technology space that are opportunities, and also they give us sleepless nights. One is the entire, the emerging technology space, which includes AI, which is ever evolving. We see new applications, new developments in that space. And the second one is cybersecurity, because for the business to run successfully, this becomes a given. And when these two get combined, I think the mix of these two is really a very powerful combination that we have to deal with. So how a lot of these different threats that emerge from a cybersecurity perspective are actually enabled by AI and other exotic solutions that a lot of players in the market are using is something that's a challenge and opportunity, and a very important space for all of us. So I completely agree with Jaspreet that this is going to be the future and the present, in fact, and something that we'll have to keep evolving with over a period of time. So look forward to a lot of opinions on this space. Thank you.
Thank you. I think great opening comments, and it's both, it's a threat also as well as it's an opportunity also, right? When I use it for my business, my work becomes faster, efficient, etc. You really like it. But on the type of threats that it exposes to, it can also become a double-edged sword. Srini, your opening comments, please.
Thank you, Jaspreet. So good afternoon, everyone. So quick intro about my background also, right? So close to 18 years of experience in the BFSI industry, not just Indian market, but with US-based, UK-based banks, fintechs, UK-based fintechs. You might have heard about Revolut. It's one of the leading fintech provider in the UK. and work with Citibank, Standard Chartered Bank, and other security solution companies as well. So being a security engineer since my inception 18 years ago, and then doing a more of a work what engineer would do, from scaling your infrastructure, securing your environment, your applications, infrastructures, your servers, and your appliances. Then moved on into other role, right? My auditor comes in, does an audit, asks so many questions about the controls and compliances. At times I get fed up also, right? Why are you asking me so many questions? Then as an auditor now, I understand why that is playing a very pivotal role, right? So being a police and a thief, which gives a good flavor of what you have to do in your way of area. And with NBFC in the last 2 years, it's a hot seat, to be literally honest, because it keeps you on your toes with regulatory requirements, not just RBI, with IRDA, CDSL, SEBI, giving you a lot of requirements. Some might be overlapping controls, some might be unique controls by itself, which you have to comply with. So the traditional audit kind of methodology might not work in the current landscape. You need to be focusing on continuous risk-based audits and more of focusing on your crown jewel assets across your environment, understanding those needs and do an audit. And every company and its market is different. So know your risk appetite and risk tolerance level is important before you try to implement or enforce a control. So we will discuss on those topics later, and probably on the certifications and other models too.
Sure. Excellent. This is the first time I've heard the thief and police analogy, and I'll definitely use it going forward. Second important thing you said was on the regulator, and some of us were chatting over lunch. Regulator's been fairly busy, right? Even from a cybersecurity perspective, right? Every once a week, you get a circular, and then everybody's running helter-skelter trying to comply to it without even understanding how does it apply, how does it affect your business, etc., etc. Vineet, your opening comments, please.
Thanks, Jaspreet. So I'm Vineet. I head risk at Kosh. So primarily around cybersecurity, what my feeling is that my end customer should feel safe that his data stored at my end is particularly safe. And at the same time, like my friend rightly mentioned, the regulator is after your life in terms of data. Going forward, regulatory frameworks like India doesn't have a GDPR framework yet, but European countries, unlike India, have a GDPR framework wherein customer-centric data is very important. So in those terms, if I rightly say that India going forward would have a framework wherein customer-centric data and customer privacy would be more important. So cybersecurity in terms of customer level data that I'm currently procuring, maybe through third-party apps, maybe through mobile authentication, or maybe other factors, that would be very critical in terms of cybersecurity, wherein theft of my individual entity level data as well as a holistic level approach in terms of individual customer data would be very important. So I think my friends have briefly covered the other areas in terms of regulatory landscape, but I think GDPR, something in line of GDPR guidelines would be very important.
Yeah, but I think the country is taking a lot of steps there. We have had DPDPA bill, which is being passed by both houses of the parliament, enacted as a bill. The rules have been submitted. I think they're just waiting formal approval on those rules. And we'll also have a act pretty similar to GDPR.
Exactly. So let's see how it is being implemented on the ground, and that would be.
But I think implementation is again dependent on organization to organization, right? And I think that's where trust plays such an important role. Tomorrow morning I get up, I see a name of a company in the newspaper, right? Because of a cyber breach or a data breach. Would you want to do business with them? Forget at a corporate level, even at a personal level, a bank has a data breach. Would you want to use your debit card in that ATM? You'll still think about it, right? As soon as you walk into the ATM, that news article will flash in your mind. So it's also the cost of doing business today. Deepa, your initial comments, please.
Hi, I'm Deepa Vegesina. I work as the Chief Product and Technology Officer at Revfin. We are a EV commercial loan financer, and we lend primarily to the financially underserved. So it is tier 2, tier 3. That is where we started as the customer base. Of course, we also do have B2B, but that's a different customer base altogether. Going through all the things that you guys have said, I want to just make the point on the other side, right? Cybersecurity, when you look at it, everybody first talks about the perpetrator, the person who is going to or is going to commit that crime knowingly. But often we forget participants, whether they are willing participants or bypassers or by mistake. And these participants, 100% of them are within the company. Within the company, meaning they can be your customers,
Insiders.
they can be your employees, they can be your field agents, they can be your dealers, your partners.
Anybody who's connected to your...
Anybody that is connected. Now, these why do we call them participants in this particular forum? Is because they they open an email, they click something, right? And thereby participating in that crime that somebody else has perpetrated. And this is why a lot of time we get regulations coming in and breathing through our necks saying, guys, you have to make sure your data is protected, not from somebody outside, but invariably from within, right? So there was a study done by an Israeli security firm where they also found out that out of 100 people, 30 people opened and clicked knowing it is spam, just to try it. It's human nature, it's curiosity, right? So that is an aspect that we should all keep in mind.
So perfect. I think great points. 3 points, in fact. One is there's a public research by Gartner which says that 80% of threat vectors participants are internal to an organization. It's only 20% that is outside. A lot of people like me have a job in cyber is because of the same thing. The most famous attack which made cyber was the attack on Target. 2014, globally probably the biggest, 2012, the biggest attack, right? Very few people know that Target was never breached by itself. There was a HVAC vendor who was connected to Target system and they were used as a conduit to get into Target. But nobody talks about that HVAC vendor's name, right? From a breach perspective. Third is, I think, gone are the days when the attacks, like you said, every organization, I'm sure all of you will agree, does a simulation exercise where every quarter you get a phishing email, but the attack vectors are also getting smarter, right? And there are so many, everybody would have seen the India's largest telco's founder talking about a deep fake video, which was released for him. If that can happen to him and employees in his organization can fall prey. Or the other example is the Hong Kong based investment banking, where they actually did a board meeting in which there was nobody present. All were bots, all were fake, and they actually transferred $1.5 million, right? So imagine if this happening, you said you cater to tier 2, tier 3 cities, right? If this is the state of cyber awareness in major metros, what would be the case in, tier 2, tier 3 cities? There are so many intelligent people sitting here, but I can bet anybody walking into a hotel today, even before you ask for your room number, when you check in, you ask for Wi-Fi password. And very few people know this, that whatever you do on the hotel Wi-Fi, the hotel has the regulatory responsibility to track it and keep it for 6 months. That's a regulation on them, right? If we as citizens are not aware and being part of such forums, imagine what the other people would be going through. So thank you for that super excellent opening comments. Aastha ma'am, your opening comments, please.
Hi. Good afternoon, everyone. I think this is the most difficult session. I think everybody has to listen to post-lunch. So definitely.
Graveyard session.
So my approach to cybersecurity would be slightly proactive. So whenever we do the vendor selection, so I place a lot of importance in doing the due diligence of the vendor
From a cyber perspective.
from a cyber perspective.
Super.
See, being an NBFC, we tie up with a lot of vendors for providing us with various services. We expose our APIs to them. Somebody once told me that choosing an LOS LMS is like choosing a partner for your marriage. उसके साथ आप बहुत लंबा चलते हैं. So when you choose that LOS LMS vendor, that person is particularly exposed to your entire data. So when you actually do a proper due diligence of the vendor, so you know the kind of comfort you're going to have. And second thing that I feel is that there have to be certain clauses in the SLA that you sign with your vendor. If in case there's a data breach or any issues with the data security, the vendor has to be equally liable for it.
Excellent, excellent clauses, and that's why a lot of companies now, when they actually even before you reach vendor selection stage, right? We've been part of M&A deals where actually the M&A team has said that, why don't you do a due deal from a cyber perspective? Imagine today your company goes out and buys, say, Paytm, right? And God forbid they would have had a cyber breach 6 months ago. Once you've acquired that company, the liability becomes yours, right? And a lot of times these breaches are not out in the open, It's only once you integrate, once you look at their network that you come and find out. And the second important piece is a lot of organizations have now started putting right to audit clause. Your LOS LMS vendor, being a small chotu vendor would say everything is hunky-dory at my place, right? But you have a right to audit or a right to at least him giving you a self-certification on the type of controls that he has implemented. So there are various, thank you for bringing that up, there are various due diligences from a third-party risk management that organizations are doing because, like I mentioned, it's a growing ecosystem. I'm not alone today, right? I don't know what attack vectors I'm attracting by exposing my APIs, by giving access to my KYC processes, so on and so forth. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Vivek, directly coming to you from there, and just an extension, right? We have to do all of this. We have to do phishing. We have to put risk management frameworks in place. Whereas business has to be super agile from an efficiency perspective. How do you balance, and probably you can add to this also, how do you balance this on? So I look at it like a Abhimanyu in a Chakravyuh kind of situation, right? You got your regulators breathing down your neck. You got your third parties that you got to secure where you can maximum do is audit, etc. Compliances. Third is you've got business. Business has to run at a very different speed today because technology is changing every maybe 6 months. How do you balance all of this together?
Yeah, I think.
And I don't want to be a CIO in this age.
Yeah, thanks for giving that compliment. But as you rightly mentioned, it's time to be agile because the threats keep changing, the business demands keep changing, the competition landscape keeps changing. So we need to keep reinventing ourselves. I think one thing which is a common thread is data that I feel is changing the business, the way we do it,
Right.
changing the customer expectations, and also our internal landscape of security. Because data is one big tool that we have to leverage more of if we have to build the right protection mechanisms. And for that, I think a lot of threat modeling, AI, machine learning, predictive modeling is the need of the hour. And we use it extensively. We leverage a lot of our vendor partners. We have internal algorithms that we continuously deploy to be able to detect real-time threats that might be entering our system. In fact, we have a very popular framework, and we call it TOMC. It's a short form to remember for Tom Cruise.
Not bad.
Yeah, it's a short form for Tom Cruise. T stands for trends. So if you have data and you're plotting that data on a run chart, and you see a continuous upward trend or a downward trend of a key metric, there's a reason for an alarm of why that's happening. O stands for oscillations. If your data is fluctuating a lot, then you know something is going around and you need to look at that and further investigate. M stands for mixtures. When your data is all mixed up, you are actually seeing data from different populations that are entering into your ecosystem. And C stands for clusters. A lot of clusters, sometimes they're all in one left corner and you're seeing all the data points coming together, and then in some other ways. So Tom C or Tom Cruise is a under the hood framework that we use for a lot of the threat modeling algorithms that we have built. And these work very well in terms of telling us if something is going wrong. And early detection, I think, using data is one of the most important tools that can actually help us being agile to be able to cater to the business needs, because then we'll have a real-time monitoring, we'll have a real-time threat detection and mitigation being put into place upfront, because risk will never be zero and business demands will always keep growing. So in such a scenario, how do you keep mitigating the most important risks, classifying them, and putting the right mechanisms of data to be able to detect them, I think is the answer to this question.
Superb. So, you learn something every day. Today, I learned how to use Tom Cruise in a risk management framework.
We'll employ him, right?
I hope he doesn't send us a bill of using his...
He might say it's mission impossible, but that's fine. We'll live with that.
Right. From the statement that you made saying risk can never be zero, somebody in a conference, I was on the dais and asked me, what is the safest computer in the world, right? So I, gave him all kinds of answers, and if anybody wants to answer what is the safest computer in the world, please, would like to take answers. But the one answer that got picked up that day was the one which is shut down, put in a box, sealed with chains and thrown into the ocean. So there is nothing called as a zero risk thing. But I think you mentioned a couple of points very well. One was the entire early detection piece, I think, which ups your game to a next level. And the second piece was proactive, right? How proactively can you manage those risks? If you're tying up with a vendor, send him a pre-assessment questionnaire, even before you start engaging him from an RFP process. Srini, your comments please on this.
So when we talk to the business, even when implementing security controls or when doing a cybersecurity based audit, they say that don't try to stop us from doing what we are doing. Right? Let us do what we are doing, but you run your security scenes behind the background. Have more intrusive controls in place rather than extrusive controls. If you are adding an additional layer of...
intrusive and extrusive too.
Yeah. For example, if I'm putting an additional MFA, authentication controls over and above my username and password, a business guy would say, why am I supposed to do additional authentication? It's stopping my work.
But let's ask the audience, how many people use multi-factor authentication in your Gmail today? I see one hand there, 2, 3.
And there's an option to skip that option. You can do it later, right? People generally click that. Okay, I'll do it later. But the importance of doing that is still...
Is more important.
Has to mandate
Thank you.
Mandated. So
please go ahead.
That's how the business looks at, and we say, yes, we are not here to stop your way of doing it. We are able to ask you to do it in a very controlled and secured environment. That is our objective. So we talked about risk tolerance and risk acceptance level. There we talk about every company is different, your risk appetite is different, not same for another company. So know your risk appetite, then implement controls. Don't do AI for sake of doing it, right? Because how many of us in the room are using AI? Home server is putting hands down. Everybody in this room are using AI.
One from the other. Now, even WhatsApp has
LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Amazon, everything has AI. Because when you search for an item, it gives you a probable match patterns, suggested products. It's all AI, right? You watch a video about Prime Minister or someone else, it gives suggestions around that, right? When you watch it next time, that's AI, right? Learning patterns. It understands your pattern, gives a model. So that is what the company is trying to do now internally, rather than you have data across multiple environments, your application servers, database servers, and other environments, right? They develop these generative AI models within the organization with what data you have in place, have a pattern analysis to understand what are your opportunities where you can tap into the market, then you decide what you have to do. Don't let the AI decide for you. Once you start doing it, then your job is at stake, first point, then your decisions are not perfect enough, right? So it is important your cybersecurity trends are, security are by design, privacy is by design. Nowadays you can see CISOs on the board, right? Earlier we would not see CISOs in the board meetings. Nowadays they are given importance. Now,
so there was a time when we were called to board meetings about 6-7 years ago. And the board meeting would end and our slot would be last and they will come out of the board meeting and say, sorry, the meeting is ended. Can we do the security update in the next board meeting? And I think Vivek is nodding his head. There are times when probably we are the first ones to even enter and start the board meeting, right? I think both are dangerous. Both are dangerous. Yeah, but
it's a double-edged sword, right? So it can hit you or it can hit, but importance is always there because your chairman.
And it can hit you bad, right? You don't want a lot of board members that I speak to. They say, we don't want to see our name in the news. Early morning get up, not see our name in the newspaper because of either a legal issue or a security incident. He says, rest everything we can take care of.
Yeah, management does not want surprises, right? They want assurance.
They want assurance. And that's where cyber comes in.
That's where we come in, right? We want to help them understand where the security posture stands and then help them decide their decision making in a very efficient way, not throw surprise at them.
Not throw surprises. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Vineet, from an awareness perspective, right? Every organization thinks they're doing enough, right? But we heard Deepa talk about awareness, phishing. So what are your thoughts on that?
So primarily every organization doesn't have tech people inside. Maybe primarily if I talk about typically startups, most of them think that they are tech enabled, but in the end, they are not literally tech enabled. So primarily the problem with startups is that you may think the first thing that they probably want to look forward is to a CTO who primarily would understand that technology is primarily enabled within their system. Second thing is in terms of mid or large corporations, it is certainly an issue that they think it is technically enabled within the organization, but a large part of it is still critical contingent on third parties, wherein those third parties might be using your data for some other purpose which you might not even be knowing. So probably you have a contingency on the external environment as well as internal environment. The risk here with the internal environment is that you have to continuously monitor how your employees have been using the data, what amount of data is breached, whether externally or internally. So that threat is continuously evolving around your organization, and how you tackle it in terms of customer orientation, your internal databases, the data that you've built over the years, that is a continuous threat. Today, data is everything for me in terms of what I have built over the years. The moment it gets leaked out, I will have to literally start from scratch.
Perfect. I'll probably ask Aastha you a variant of this question. And this is a very generous question, nothing to do with cyber. Do you think as Indians we are very concerned about privacy and security of our data? Do you think as Indians, as my personal data, am I concerned? Where do Indians fit in? Are we very concerned about our data or least concerned about our data?
I think as Indians, we are very casual about our data.
Super. Elaborate, please. And then maybe I'll get you to close this off, Anji.
So just now only we were discussing during lunch, and we already knew that somebody is capturing what we're talking about. If you are using terms like Dubai, there are recommendations coming, already coming on our Make My Trip and all the other apps, and we're already aware. Yet we're not very proactive about taking such approaches to not let that data be leaked.
No, absolutely. And probably, another 30-40 seconds, I think we are probably the least worried about our own data. If you are seated next to somebody in a flight, in 2 hours, you can actually draw his entire family tree. As recent as 2 years ago, if you take a train from the railway station, your entire PNR chart was printed, right? Which had your PNR details. With PNR details, you can go to an app, put those PNR details, it will tell you what kind of ID you used to book that. With that ID, I could get your address, things of so that I could do a reconnaissance and reach wherever we wanted. Look at all our wedding cards for that matter.
Like
Privacy-
you mentioned, in fact, a lot of times in flights, people are seen leaving their boarding passes like that.
Yeah,
And the
absolutely.
boarding passes can actually be retrieved to even
Find out everything about you.
Find out everything, even the credit card which you
Details
use to
which you use for booking. Yes,
book that.
absolutely. So thank you for that. I would probably want you to close this panel. We are at about 2.5 minutes. So closing comments from your side, and if there are 2 takeaways that they should take from this panel, your thoughts.
Yeah.
And I like
So-
the point on phishing, but now the same thing is happening with voice also. At least it started a lot in the developed countries, where you get a call and it seems as if your banker is on the call and somebody merges the call, asks you for an OTP, you look at your phone, you get an OTP, and you're locked out of your bank accounts forever. Yeah, please.
So I think it follows the point of how we perceive the data that we have, that we produce of ourselves first. So it always starts with self, right? And only then you can say, okay, I have a customer data, I have a partner data, I have n number of data points that I have, and how am I going to use it? The start point, as she rightly said first, that when I'm onboarding a vendor, I will see everything, that they are doing it all perfect. But why doesn't it start with ourselves? Right? Now, what that brings in is the awareness, self-awareness on which, what do I do? What type of data is out there? Nobody cares about your personal data as your date of birth, even your PAN number, your Aadhaar number, we give it everywhere. But the minute even 1 rupee goes out of your bank account,
Yeah, that hits you.
that hits. Then suddenly you're like, who got my data? Why did they have it? But you gave it. Okay? And that realization needs to be there from the start. It's a very simple fact about the MFA. Only 3 people raised their hand, right? It's again, somebody doesn't come and make it compulsory. Until such time, you're not going to take it seriously.
And I did
Right?
not even breach the subject on same passwords. I can today ask how many people have the same password for Facebook, LinkedIn, Google. And I'm pretty sure at least 70-75% will have the same password across all
Yeah, all
platforms.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so this is where the biggest threat is self, right? Self-awareness, that is where it starts. And then you have the rest that follows.
Perfect. I think please give a huge round of applause to all my fellow panelists. They were superb. Thank you so very much. I had a great time. Thank you. I don't think so. There's any question. But if she allows, we'll take.
And I think that was an insightful conversation. Thank you so much. Thank you to all our panelists. And now I would request Mr. Jaspreet Singh to come forward for the memento session. I would request everyone to please come forward one by one.
Start in this order. First.
Whichever you like. A huge round of applause for them, please. Now I would like to invite Ms. Akanki Sharma from B2B TFM to present the memento. Now I would request everyone to please come forward for a group photograph. Thank you so much.